Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I'm so excited to be here with intimacy coach Brenden Durell.
How you doing, Lindsey? How you doing? I think
I'm good. Tell me.
before we tell anybody, I just want to say like you inspire me to get a Razor flip phone.
So Brenden is so funny. So I had like a bit of a crisis before we started recording this episode, and my SD card wasn't fitting into my recorder. So Brenden was very patient. I was like, I need to run to CVS. I need to fix the situation. And I was emailing him from my phone. And you know how you can change your sent from my iPhone message? I changed it a while ago to sent from my Razor flip phone. And he was like, I can't believe you have a Razor flip phone. But the funny thing
Novelty.
is, I never had a Razor flip phone. Did you?
No, I was a bleep bleep Nextel guy back in the day.
Me too. I never well back then like my parents were supporting me and I could like they would never get me like the cool new phone over their dead bodies. Like they were like you are getting the Sony Ericsson, no games on your phone. And I was so jealous of all my friends with their Razor flip phones. So now I'm like living my true fantasy of having one.
I support it, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you. So, backing up a little for anyone who doesn't know you, Brenden, how old are you and where are you from?
I am 36 years young and I'm originally from New York, born in Jersey and just live between New York and New Jersey.
Love it. And also, like, need you to drop the skincare routine because you are glowing.
Thank you. It's I'm gonna say a lot of it's genetic, but a lot of it's also I do a lot of supplementation and I do a lot of stuff around my environment to nurture. But thank you.
I love it. And what is your current relationship status?
Current relationship status is dating and hopeful dating with one person, and it feels really good. It's new. Um, and it's very different than what I've experienced in the past and very revealing for a lot of stuff with me. And I would say over the last like couple months, I really had a rude awakening in what it actually takes to be a masculine space within a dynamic. And we can get more into that down the line. But yeah, I would say my current situation in dating this beautiful woman, she's absolutely rewriting a lot of scripts that I've had in my mind playing out that would sabotage me.
I love that. How did you meet?
One of my sisters who I in my African tradition that I train in, she did a film project with her, and so the connection was through there.
That's awesome. And your sister was like, you should meet my brother. Or did you meet her through that and you were like, who's she?
Yeah, I met her through that. I was like, who's she? And it was just something different, something that was I would say I was still like had a lot of apprehension and resistance. However, I was like following the thread within me, like I probably should just say hi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I did stalk you a little bit and I noticed you had a lot of Leo placements. Does that mean you're a Leo sun?
Yeah, Leo Sun and Leo Venus and Leo Mercury, a lot
Wow.
of Leo, like over I
So
think 6 aspects is Leo in my chart.
that's a lot of Leos. So from my experience with Leos, granted, I only dated Leos that were young because I was young when I dated them. There was like a lot of ego and pride involved, but you seem very much like detached from that. Is that like a conscious thing that you've worked on throughout the years, or you never really had that?
I never really had that. Like I would say, I mean, I contribute a lot of it to childhood dynamics, and
Mm-hmm.
I won't say trauma. I'll say childhood dynamics and just who I am. My pops is a Leo through and through. He's old school. He can sell water to a well kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I've never had that like let's say gift of gab where it's like just go up to a stranger who's pumping gas and just have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been more of like I've my astrology terms, my ascending is Gemini and
Mm.
my moon is Taurus. So my emotional is set up. And I would say my Leo shows up in a way where it's like I don't need to have the spotlight on me. However, it's like you will know who I am and I will be acknowledged. However, it's like you can perform all you want.
Mm-hmm. What is this new person in your life sign? Just out of curiosity.
Pisces.
Ah, Leo and Pisces always find each other, I swear.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been beautiful as well because my biggest thing I would say in dynamics that would show up is that I always would shut down in regards to harshness. Whenever things felt harsh with a delivery of communication or a delivery of some kind of working through some kind of emotional charge, if I felt anything was charged, I was like, I can't do this. And relating with the Pisces has really softened me as well in my approach to communicating myself and articulating myself. So it's been a beautiful way because it's fire and water. It's they can work really well, but if one dominates the other, it could be a catastrophe.
Totally, totally. And a lot of people who are listening right now, they might have seen you on the Netflix show Too Hot to Handle, where you were brought in technically as the dating expert, even though you and I had spoken about, your it all started, you found them, or they found you rather, because you had this workshop on semen retention, which I I do not know anything about. All I know, and I don't even know if this is related, and you can tell me, is about edging.
Oh yeah.
Are they related? And just, for our listeners who are like, what the hell are they talking about? Can you tell us?
Yeah, edging is a practice within semen retention. Semen retention, or some people might call it no FAP, the no FAP movement. However, I don't agree with no FAP, FAP, just because it's very like it's very harsh and it's like cold turkey to your genitals, and I'll explain more. But semen retention is essentially a practice that goes back thousands of years in Asian traditions, and it's essentially, and I've learned it via Taoism and how I can maximize my libido, my vitality. So it's like, let's say I'll choose like, okay, I'm not going to ejaculate. I'm not going to come for 14 days. That's
Mm-hmm.
my commitment to myself. And the first step of this practice as a man, it's that I'm going to honor my word. And not only honoring my word, it's good, I'm going to put myself in position so that I can accomplish this thing. So what it is, it's like I still can, if I'm partnered or not partnered, I still can experience pleasure. I still can have sex. I can still masturbate. Masturbating within semen retention is edging. So let's say there's a scale between 1 and 10, and ten's like I'm literally like there's no going back. I already pre-came and it's like it's gone. It's like I just gotta go. And then
Mm-hmm.
one's like flaccid penis. So edging is a practice to get me to, let's say, a 6, a 5 or 6. Get really aroused, turned on, feel the energy, feel all everything building up, and then stopping, taking some deep breaths, getting back down, getting grounded, breathing into that energy of the euphoria. And then I go back into it again. I do a couple rounds of that. And what this does, it builds up stamina for a man. If there's any men out there listening, or any women listening, your partner struggles with, let's say, ED or some other stuff, this can really support the pace, because I know men who, let's say, they ejaculate really fast. However, if they bring these practices in, it expands that time they can pleasure their partners and themselves. So yeah, there's a lot to go into a semen retention, but you're right on with edging. Edging is a vital practice within semen retention.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I feel like it's always kind of been like put on me as the woman to like, during sex, if the man is like ready to go, but he wants it to last longer, he'll be like, stop, don't move. Like, just let's stop for a second. And it's like, why does it have to, why me? Like, why can't you do something within yourself to make it continue? So I guess I'm sure you teach that.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, because it's let's say those emotions that he's feeling, like let's say like this the stop, that frantic stop that comes in, that could be literally like he's at like a 9.5 about to go over to a 10. He's about to blow up. And it's like, as a man, check semen retention helps you check in to self-inquire about where you are on that scale. And it's not a scientific thing. Like, let's say you're making love, you're in the space. You're not like calculating, like, oh, I'm at a 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not like that. It's free flowing. But it's like understanding sensations, also understanding what my partner does and that I'm relating with that would put me over the edge. So it's like if I'm going in a very beautiful way, understanding my pace in that, and like if I know that her tones, her voices are going to get me to a 9 or 10, I slow down my pace, not completely, but just slow it down, breathe, bringing a different aspect of, let's say, taking the driver's wheel in this situation.
Hmm. I also recently have been talking to a lot of my followers who are mostly female about, um, you know, not being offended by, like, during sex, for example, let's say when the woman's on top and the man is like not, as hard as he would be if like it was a different position that he liked better. And it's like, how are you not like, how do you not take that personally? Um, and like, what do just like, if let's say the man is only like fully aroused when it's like doggy style or something, and like, the woman's like, is this a red flag? Because like, my face is never in the picture when he's like most, satisfied or whatever. Like, how do you not take something like that personally? And is it personal? Could it be?
Yeah, it could be. It purely depends on the unique situation. Because let's say for me, how that's shown up, and to me, it's completely like um, it's biological for me at times. Let's say if if I'm being is it rode? I'm being ridden. I'm being cowgirl. If I'm being ridden, if I'm in that position, just laying flat on my back naturally, it's like blood flow is naturally going to go away from my penis. If it's like a long time, that's just science. Like it's going to move away from my penis and it's going to go. I'll still be hard, but it's not going to be like a 10 if I'm like on top like this
Oh,
with the blood
that
flow.
makes sense.
So that's another thing for me. Now it's like I don't shy away from connection, eye contact, breathing together in the intimate space. So it's like now, but if a man is not making, let's say he's like she's with her partner in that position and he's not making eye contact, his eyes are just closed the whole time like this, or he's like avoiding eye contact, then there could be some things that it's like maybe this dude is struggling with intimacy, you know?
Mm.
So yeah, I feel things like I feel it's very unique to the situation, but I know for me and my experience, it's if I'm just laying flat too long in that area, it's like blood flow just kind of leaves. So I need to flip over so blood can rush down.
That's really interesting. That's good perspective. When you worked on the show Too Hot to Handle, did you learn anything that you were surprised by, or was it more like you just, teaching what you know?
Um, what I learned in that space was that I know the show they do an amazing job at casting and filming and things, and it further solidified my passion for demystifying sex, for not making it taboo, like because it's still a taboo conversation. And I always say there's what 8 billion people on this planet. Every single one's a product of sex. Every single one, and we're not even including the animals and the nature and the primal aspects of just life in general. So everything is a product of sex. So there's an aspect within the show that it's like if you experience pleasure that it's a bad thing, and for me it's like it's never a bad thing to experience pleasure. Timing may be the conversation in regards to like when they're breaking the rules, like can you do things to like not get to that space for the purpose of these 3 weeks that we're doing this. So I would say it further pushed me and I learned like how passionate I am about um, making pleasure just a household conversation, and not just with adults but also with teenagers. And if you're a parent in a situation, encouraging pleasure, encouraging exploration, because I don't feel like I remember being in puberty and I honestly I would give anything to feel that feeling sometimes of just how raging my hormones were, and also like how horny I was all the time, like in the testosterone, everything was just different when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. And I understand how some of these kids are casted on the show because they're still in the midst of that.
Right.
And it's like they're being put in very challenging situations to be like, hey, without any kind of practices, no edging, no nothing. And it's saying, hey, don't touch each other. And I'm like, that's very intense. So I would say normalizing pleasure is what I've learned, one of the biggest things from the show.
But does that translate to, so I have like dating rules that I kind of follow and preach. And one of those rules is not to have sex on the first date. And I feel like you're going to definitely have an opinion on this. And it's not because I'm not sex positive. It's more so because, you're building this connection and this build up to which it's like edging, but emotionally, right? And
Mhm.
you are making it, figuring out if you have this connection without the sex and then adding it in. And then it's like this amazing experience. Whereas, in my experience, when I have had sex after the first date, I have lost interest as a woman. Like, forget even like women being like, men won't like you after you have sex. I lost interest. And so I wonder if you have any thoughts on it. And, obviously you're extremely sex positive. So do you think that that's a harmful thing to perpetuate, to not sleep with someone on the first date?
Um, Absolutely not. Like I really love your, I don't want to say rule, but your perspective on it because I'm all about the slow burn. And I feel in the slow burn is a very intricate part of Tantra, the lifestyle of Tantra, Tantra yoga, any kind of yogic practices. It's stillness and taking your time. It's not about rushing. And I feel something as simple as not having sex on the first date keeps the polarity really fresh and exciting. A mentor of mine would always tell me at least 30 days, like before, like if I'm dating somebody new, to have the first time we have sex. It's like keep exploring until you get there. And
Mm-hmm.
then even breaking it down, let's say like even the first time we're say like it's date number two and you're gonna go all in. And as the masculine in the space, it's having discipline to not even touch any genitals, don't touch breasts, nothing for at least 45 minutes, essentially warming up the oven. You can't bake bread in a cold oven. So having that kind of discipline in that space is really important. So I'm all for, because I felt it too, and I still feel it, you know. This is why I'm a big advocate for intimacy, because intimacy without sex is just sex. You know, it's you need intimacy to keep the fire burning, like going forward, and these practices and intentional time with each other. So I'm all about the slow burn, and that's just me as well. And it's I see life as a whole as foreplay. Like foreplay is not just like before we have sex. Foreplay is as soon as we wake up in the morning, I'm biting her neck, you know, like in a
Mm-hmm.
gentle, playful way. And then I'm getting up, taking a shower, getting to work. And then she's like, "Whoa, you just leaving me here," kind of thing. It's like, yeah, probably. You know, like yeah, like we'll get back to this later. So but foreplay is like it's a marathon, it's a lifestyle, it's all day. So um, especially when it comes to dating, it's like if you have intentions on being with somebody for a long time, you have time to like let things just marinate. So I'm with you. I'm all about the slow burn.
I like that idea of foreplay being like all day and kind of always with your partner. It also like makes it more fun to be in that like long-term relationship that could otherwise be boring if you didn't have that stuff. Like even just like texting with my partner, I feel like sometimes can be foreplay, like not even sexually texting, just like being funny and joking with each other and not really letting the conversation end. And then when we see each other, it's like, oh, like, we've been talking and here you are. Um, so I love that. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. So there was an article recently, I forgot what publication, but basically about how men are like lonelier than ever and men are just like women are fine, but men are struggling essentially. And I wonder, because I imagine you speak to mostly men, but maybe it's a even amount of men and women, but like, where are men to you, struggling the most? And like, why? Why is this happening? Like, what happened now versus like 10 years ago?
Yeah. First thing I would like to preface is that it's interesting. Let's say social media wise, 70% of women follow me, 30% men. And that's the case for a lot of masculinity leaders as well, because then I contributed to a lot of things, and could be also men aren't ready to hear what I have to say, you know, or I might trigger something that, you know, like inside. So I want to say that I speak deeply to a lot of women, and but working one on ones with a lot of men. And from the men that I've worked with, I also have a men's experience happening in the Amazon rainforest in a couple weeks. So we're going to talk about these things as well. Um, I would say loneliness is a human pandemic right now, like not just men. But if we come down, like, and intimacy is a pandemic, a human pandemic as well. But when it comes to romantic relating, like definitely, I feel men are as lonely as ever as well, just because not just without a life partner, but also just in companionship and healthy companionship. And to me, it makes sense that a lot of men would struggle in intimacy because they don't even have an environment with close friends who are willing to call them forward and to call them into their excellence and greatness. So, and then they can hide in other areas of their lives. That's why I feel having a support system of men around you, if you're a man, um, is very vital because it's not only levels up your awareness around friendship and platonic relating, but also with your partner. But I say there's so many like dynamics, and I was walking to the gym the other day, and I was just seeing so many people. I'm currently in Vancouver, BC right now, and it's going into fall. It's beautiful, leaves changing, all the things, sun is shining. And I was just walking to the gym and I see how people were just down, like looking at their phones, like, the same old story we see, people always looking down. And I just had this thing in my mind creatively. I was like, what if the person with her head down, like walks past the love of her life, but she would never know,
Oh, there's,
and vice
yeah,
versa.
go ahead.
Yeah, and vice versa. And I'm just like that probably happens all the time. Like somebody that's meant to be influential in their lives, they just miss them because they're down. So I would say like tech, whatever we want to call it, and I'm sure there's
Mm.
probably things out there that represent this, but that got me thinking about loneliness. It's like we're looking for connection here, but it's like this person just walked past me right here, who's like right here. So I feel that's a big part of the intimacy conversation today and the loneliness.
I love that. And you just reminded me of this poem that I feel like you would love. I have to read it to you.
Can you read it? Yeah.
Okay. It's um all right. She had blue skin, and so did he. He kept it hid, and so did she. They searched for blue their whole life through, then passed right by and never knew.
Yep, that's exactly that encapsulates it. That's
It's
exactly what it is.
That's like the modern version of that poem. But it's
I love
true. Like
it.
I always, when people are like, how do I meet in person? I never meet IRL. It's like, well, look around you. Like when you're online at Starbucks or wherever, like I bet you there's someone who would like to meet too, but you're not available.
Yeah,
Like you're just not even looking around.
yeah. And it's a thing too. It's like, of course, like I know the privilege of being a man and traveling and being in public. There's a level of privilege that comes with that because of safety. And I'm not saying for, let's say, a woman to be completely open to everybody and everything. Like, hell no, like don't do that. Like I'm a Leo. I'm the first one to be like, fuck that person. Like that's just
Hmm.
that's my initial reaction. And I'm from New York, so it's like that's my initial until somebody proves me otherwise. But it's just like, it's okay to have a little bit more of wandering eyes, curiosity in your environment, and also playing the polarity game of playing like even learning about yourself. Like let's say you're at the coffee shop and it's like looking at different archetypes of men in that space, and just feeling like, am I attracted to this kind of man? Am I not? Why? Yes, no, blah, blah, blah. Move on to the next one. I feel just keeping your head off your device and just looking around is very important for self-discovery and inquiry when it comes to intimacy and learning yourself and with a partner going forward.
Yeah, agreed. What would you say to the men and women out there who still like really are obsessed with this challenge person and like getting, the act of getting somebody and then like once that person actually reciprocates and likes them back, they lose interest. Like how do they
Yeah,
get over that?
yeah. Um, I always bring it back to childhood dynamics and the things that we've experienced. Like the same way people explore ancestry, I explore like just childhood dynamics as best as I can, because I also was in a part of that in a section of my life where it's like I would be so like gung ho about somebody, so excited and super monogamous, but also then once something would hit, and it wasn't even after sex, it wasn't even like a sexual thing, like after I got it, it dissipated. Like it was like more of like an emotional thing. um there's things that we've encountered in our lives as well that has brought that about. And for me, it was always protection. Like it always came down to protection with me. When somebody got too close to see my blue skin, like the
Mm-hmm.
poem, I was like, "Holy fuck! They can't see my blue skin, so I'm gonna do everything in
Mm-hmm.
my power so they don't see it." And that was my thing. And I got to the bottom of that based on my upbringing and my dynamics with my mom and sisters, etc., like that.
Yeah. But like, what about the men who aren't willing to look at their childhood trauma, like the men who are not into therapy and won't be?
Yeah, and I take the position always that most people come into life not looking to heal and expand and grow in a way that we think. Like a lot of people who are in personal development, spirituality, they think that everybody's birthright is to grow and to expand, and it's like it's not. Some people come in just to be who they are and for their whole lives, whether they regret it or not. So when I see there's people of like, oh, they're always in this pattern, it's like maybe they're meant to be in this pattern for their whole life going forward. Like it's not for us to change them or that hope that they change. I'm like, maybe the next life, maybe the next life. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some people who just won't change. Like, and that's just what it is. And I feel that's a tough pill for those out there who like want to see the world change. It's like the nature of it is that not everybody came here to grow in the way that we did.
That's so true. And I really believe in that. Like, I always say, like, my sister, for example, and I mean this with so much love, and I've said this to her, like, she's in her first life on this earth. Like, that is a fact. And that doesn't mean that, like, she's not amazing. She is. It just means that, you know, this is not her life of discovery. This is not like, where she wants to make changes. She wants to experience it. She's in her first life. Whereas, like, I often feel like I'm like in my like second to last. I don't know if it ever ends, but I'm like, oh, I'm tired of this already. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. And you mentioned like how crucial it is for men to have this like group or, other male friends that they can be emotionally real with and honest with. But I've seen firsthand, like my husband, he's lucky that he has a few of those guys that he could be real with, but for the most part, it's very superficial with men and men. Like we'll go to dinner with a new couple and like a man and woman. And my husband will be like talking to the guy about like work and like the market and how much money they lost this year and whatever. And they'll look over and like her and I, we've just met. We're talking about fertility struggles. We're talking about, like our deepest, like a cyst we had removed last year. Like we are totally, everything is out on the table. Like, we have no fear to get deep and to get real. And like, we're like, oh my God, I hate the way I look or whatever. Like women are just ready to go deep. And I just feel like it's so hard for men to actually have a real conversation. And who knows, like, let's say my husband did say to the guy, like, I've been really, struggling lately. I feel like having a startup is really hard. And I just didn't, like, I don't even know that the guy would react the way that like the women and I are going. So it's like, how do you even find that realness with another man?
Yeah, I say just going for it. Like, let's say if your partner definitely did that, he was like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I'm struggling right now. Like, my business is, whew, I'm tired. Like, my lady's pregnant. We got a baby coming. I just got a lot on my plate, and it's like I feel like just go for it. Like the filtering process of that will call in the people who are meant to listen to you in that way. Um, and this is why, like, when I do men's spaces as well. Prompts are the biggest thing, and even for myself it's like the exploration of that. And I approach it the same way I would approach like intimacy, like being very direct with the questions that I'm asking myself. um, because the thing is, like, most men aren't like that. Most men aren't able to be in a space to hear and just witness another man speaking about his challenges because they're not capable of that within themselves. So I just say, like, go in for it. It's like, because we could be surprised too. Like, thing is too, like, and I've been in this space, um, being a personal development, being in spirituality, where I had this prejudgment of like, oh, this motherfucker can't hold me. I'm not going to share my emotions. I'm not going to do that. Hell no, I'm going to look stupid. And
Mm,
then it turns out that this person is an exceptional listener. Like they're all in. They might not be like the master splinter or like freaking Yoda. However, it's like just the way that they listened to me and they understood. I was like, damn, this is a bro. And that's happened to me several times where my ego sabotaged these connection points as well.
right. Yeah. And I feel like we don't give men like the chance to show us that they can emotionally relate to us. But then if you think about it, like, if this man is married to a woman, he knows how to do that. Like he's married to a woman. And so I'd hope that she has confided in him and he supported her. So why can't he support another man hearing what he has to say?
Yeah, it's just taboo. Our culture just isn't set up to do that. And that's a whole nother thing too when it comes to like why I feel men's spaces to have spaces where I can go. Even and when I say spaces, it can even be just like two homies who are
Mm-hmm.
from because I have like a set of friends and I have them all like compartmentalized. Like I have childhood friends who I've known for 3 decades, who I don't talk about certain things with because it's just not there. And then I have, let's say, personal development friends or spirituality friends, people who I met at retreats, people who I met in different spaces of vulnerability and things like that. And it's like I have different things with different friends. And I also know that my childhood friends that I've known for over 30 years, like they simply cannot hold me the way that my personal development friends can. And it's like I've tried it with my childhood friends. They're just not there. But we love each other in a different way. So I feel getting clear on who these people are in your life as well. It's like you have your sports bros, you have your work bros, and then you have your like emotional bros. And I feel that's very okay to have these things compartmentalized in creating your community and your support system.
That's so true. And I'm actually curious if you would be open to sharing, like, what is it about the childhood friends that you feel like you can't share with them?
I feel it's the same thing as childhood dynamics. It's like they've met me at a long time ago in one way. And let's say my childhood nickname is Bam. They would call me Bam Bam. They call me Bam. So it's like they know me as Bam. And whoever I was in that time, it's like that's the impressionable mark that they met me as was that boy. And it's like even though we've matured over the years, we've kept the same humor, we've kept the same likes, the same things that were solidified within us then. So when it comes to different dynamics and knowing them, there's just some topics that I wouldn't go into, whether it's political, they have different opinions, whether it's like medical, political, like whatever it might be like that. It's like I love you, and it's like that's not our place to talk about that. Like our relationship and intimacy, it's okay that it's not like let's say shooting off on all areas. It doesn't have to. Like we make this thing that people that we know have to satiate all of our desires the same way we do romantically. It's like, oh, the perfect person for me is going to do this and that. Same thing with friendships. It's like people don't have to tick all the boxes to be your friend.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like a friend for every purpose. And then like rarely, but sometimes you have a friend who's like in a lot of those boxes,
Exactly.
but it's
Exactly.
rare.
And I have that. Let's say like one of my spirituality personal development friends, let's say he's a 4 out of 5 in regards to like full on brother to me. That one that's missing out of the 4 out of 5, it's that he just doesn't have like the humor and like let's say the roasting abilities that my
Mm,
boys have from New York, you know? He has
mm-hmm.
everything else, but it's like let's say I send him a meme or a joke and he's just like and I'm like, yeah, it's like he just won't get it, and it's fine, but he
Yeah.
satiates all other parts of me, and we get to be intimate that way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like I have a lot of 4 out of 5. I have like a few 4 out of 5 friends, and it's interesting what they're missing. Luckily for me, it isn't humor, but it's like that person that like you have the best time with isn't necessarily going to show up for you when you need them, but they have like when you're with them, they're such a good vibe and you feel so good. But then like when you're like, oh my God, I got a promotion, they're like, cool. Like, and the
Yeah,
other friend is like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like your soul is so blessed by the it's
yeah,
funny.
yeah, and with and I'm so aware of it, and it's fine for me. I used to like judge myself of like, oh, why do I do this? And I actually really learned. It's funny because on with Too Hot to Handle, when I'm filming with them, they provide us a chaperone. I call it a babysitter, but essentially it's a person who is like they represent us for the production. Like if we need anything in our villa, they get it for us. And my first chaperone, she's English woman, hilarious. She's a producer. And I remember she pulled out this little pad when we were by the pool, and she was just in there like this. She got off the phone with somebody and she was just writing it. And I was like, what's in that book? And she goes, oh, it's just a list of my friends. And like I just move people around based on the times of my life and the seasons of like who I should pour into more and lean into based on where I'm at. And I was like, wow. Like and she was teaching me about things. And I was there as an expert in intimacy for Tuat to handle. And I asked her more about it. I go, like, how do you get to the space of like who's here? She goes, well, actually a big part of it is when when let's say I take dips and I don't contact anybody, I always can tell like people who genuinely care about me because they check in on me as well. She goes, I'm usually the one who checks on people all the time and keeping the connection going. She goes, a few times a year when I'm not feeling my best, I let the connection go, and then I see who shows up for me, who's just curious about where I've been. And she goes, that's how I keep people and my close intimate connections with at top priority for my life.
That's really interesting. I love the idea of like knowing where to pour. Um,
Exactly.
I like,
Seasoning.
yeah, I love that. I don't know if I would like measure it by who checks in on me, just because everyone has such different shit
Busy
going on.
lives. Mhm.
But I do feel like you pour into different people at different moments based on what's going on in your life and theirs, and if it's, compatible at that time.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna do some fun rapid fire questions. Do men with commitment issues still propose? Yes or no?
Yes.
When you sneeze, does it come out of your mouth or your nose?
Mouth, nose, and ass. I'm playing. Mouth and nose. Mouth and nose.
For those, so let's say you're in a long-term relationship with this person that you mentioned already. Do you feel like you compromised on something, or do they truly check all the boxes that you had wanted?
Check the boxes that I want.
Hmm. You're getting cosmetic surgery in another state, and your partner doesn't want to come because he doesn't have anything to do there when you needed his support. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker?
I say red flag.
Hmm. If someone is happily in a relationship for 2 months, yet they're checking out the Instagram stories of a past hookup, does that mean they're not actually happy, or it doesn't mean anything?
Um, that's a tough one because I feel it's unique, but I say it can go either way. I know he's a rapid fire, but I would say there's a lot of layers to that. But I would say it's not a red flag until it does become one.
Hmm. I feel like we're all always lurking. It doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
Have you been in a long-term relationship with someone that you weren't physically attracted to on the first date? Yes or no?
Yes.
Interesting. Is it okay to get icked out by someone's grammar over text, or are you being too harsh?
um, Old me would have been like, yes, totally ick. New me, it's like, nah, it's if that's the least of the worries, then it's cool. So I would
Yeah.
say, no, it's not a big deal for me now.
If you were in a safe long-term relationship, would you let your significant other tape you having sex with them to watch later when you're not around?
Absolutely.
Mhm. You find out that your new significant other was actively swiping on a dating app 2 days before asking you to be official. Is that a red flag, deal breaker, or annoying? But I'll get over it.
Red flag.
Yeah. Is it normal for your significant other's parents to not act super warm and fuzzy and instead more distant towards you the first time they meet you?
Um, Definitely not normal.
Is it a red flag or a green flag that your boyfriend calls his mom every day and also texts her during the day?
Red flag. Huge red flag. Yeah, it's like, bro, so if anybody out there dealing with that, send that dude to me. We need to like knock some
Mm-hmm.
sense to that mama's boy.
Mm-hmm. Like I love a mama's boy, but texting all day, calling every day, it's
Nah,
a
bro,
lot.
it's too much.
Let her come to you, you know?
Exactly.
Um, if okay, this one I'm really curious your opinion. You're dating a guy for about a month, and on a night out, you thought that he was into your friend. So you asked him if he was, and he said he would be into a threesome with her. You then shared you weren't into that and you felt insecure about it. He apologized, said he really likes you, and whatever you want, he's happy with, and it won't happen again. Is that a red flag, a deal breaker, or no big deal?
Red flag.
Yeah, for like him to just jump on that opportunity to tell you that he wants to have a threesome with your friend when you're not even more than a month in.
Yeah, and it's like let's say you've been cultivating intimacy for a very long time and you want to open it up to something, but like friends is a no-go. Like immediate
Yeah.
circles a no-go always, you know? And this is not to say like you can't be attracted to somebody's friend just physically, but it's like that's a no-go for sure.
Also, like you don't need to tell them like
Nah.
it's yeah. Um, you went on a first date and he ended it after one drink because he had a work presentation the next morning. Is he not into it, or do you think he really had to go home?
I would say he's not into it. Again,
Hmm.
it depends, but I would say not into it because it's if he has a work presentation tomorrow and he made plans with you the night before, he would have did everything in his power to make sure that he had things done for that presentation so it didn't bleed into
Right.
your time together.
You heard it here
Priority.
first. You're dating someone who's newly divorced. When is it okay to ask for details of the breakup, like who wanted to split, etc.? The first few dates, after 3 dates, or after dating for 1 or 2 months?
I'd say the first 3 dates.
Mm. And the last one, have you ever seen a relationship where one person masterminded it? Like they knew what they wanted early on and deliberately or subtly made things happen.
Um, you mean in regards to like the full on like relationship, like they like White House pigs, fence, kids, blah blah blah, stuff like
Like
that?
they, yeah, like kind of like they were like, oh, that I'm getting that one. And, I'm gonna make him love me and marry me. And then he actually did or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen that for sure. Yeah, I've
Does it
seen that. I'm
usually
like,
work?
um, from my experience of the two people that I know in my mind, it's there's always one who's like, let's say not reaping the benefits as much emotionally.
Yeah.
There's like a little imbalance,
Hmm.
intimacy wise,
Interesting.
going forward.
Interesting. This was so fun. Brenden, can you leave us with a quote or piece of advice, something that has helped you throughout the years?
Ah, oh, there's so many. I would say, it's just checking in every day with your humanity, like with the aspect of you that's human. And no matter how deep you get into inner work, spirituality, it's like still remember that you're human first. Like you can long for the stars, but it's like for some reason the stars sent you here to be human. And don't take that away from yourself. Like always give yourself the opportunity to be human, to be messy like a human, to fuck up because good people also fuck up, and it's there's a thing that you can give yourself grace in life all the time, and I always remind myself of that because there's sometimes I'm just so hard on myself that I try to be perfect, and it's like, bro, you're a human. There's not been one professional human in the history of humans, so why am I thinking I am? So yeah, take that to the bank.
I love that. Where can everybody find you, follow you, and potentially work with you?
IG, Brenden Durell. Following the Acme page, so you can find me there on my website, brendendurell.com. And yeah, get involved. Like I work with everybody, no matter your preference. I work with non-binary men, women. It doesn't matter. Like I'm here to support all the aspects and things that I teach, even with Tantra and sexuality applies to everybody. It's not exclusive.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsey.